Welcome to BigCountryPreps.com. I'm Evan Wren, and this is the Capital Farm Credit Wednesday night podcast, our weekly look at the area athletic scene, what happened last week, and what's going on this week. I'm here with my partner, Dan Youngblood, via Zoom. And tonight, Dan, we've got Dublin head football coach Greg Hardcastle joining the show.
Yeah, and I'm excited about this one. We've obviously talked a lot to his predecessor over the years, Coach Bob Cervetto, who's always been a friend of ours and a friend of this show. I think he's probably the most featured guest that we've had on our podcast over the years. But Coach Hardcastle's a guy who's obviously been very close with Coach Cervetto. Coach Cervetto's kind of a mentor of his, and he's been there to kind of oversee that whole turnaround at Dublin. Was a big part of it. Now he's the getting to lead that athletic program and that football team, and they're having a great season. This has been a tremendous first season for Coach Hardcastle, and I'm excited to get to talk to him about this team and just about that experience. I think it's going to be a really good conversation.
When I first started in Abilene back in 2006, I'll just say it, the Dublin athletic program was in big trouble. It was a mess. It was not doing well on pretty much all fronts. And, it stayed that way for a while. And Bob Cervetto came in and changed the culture. He really did. And Coach Hardcastle was a big part of that, a big part of that turnaround. The turnaround that we've seen in Dublin, and as far as enthusiasm and just success, on-field success, is one of the best. It's one of the best stories in the big country over the last 10, 15 years. It really is.
And that's the thing. And you've seen it across all sports. I mean, football, was obviously the most obvious one, because that's kind of the sport that a lot of folks followed the closest. But their boys basketball team has had several very good years. That it's been a very fast-paced, high-scoring team, and they've had gotten to the playoffs and done some nice things. Baseball, they've had some success, and it's just nice to see when you do have a community like that has struggled for a long time. You just kind of see that tide turn, see that culture change. And now at this point, I mean, they're a program that in all sports goes into these seasons expecting to compete, and they often do. And this football season, I think, is a perfect example of that. This is a team that has been a really fun one to watch, and I think we've seen them grow and mature over the course of the season. Just got a big playoff win over Callisburg, something that would have been, unheard of, like you said, 10, 15 years ago. And now they're in the second round of the playoffs, feeling like they've got an opportunity now to compete in the area round and with a chance to get to the third round. So a very cool story. And like you said, Coach Hardcastle's been a big part of it.
All right, before we begin tonight's show, we need to thank our primary sponsor, Capital Farm Credit, with offices all over Texas, including Stanford and Abilene. Buy your own slice of Texas with Capital Farm Credit. Together, we're better. All right, and with that, Dan, it's time to take a look at pairings and results. And we'll start at the Class 1A level in six-man regional quarterfinal round this week. Region 3, 1A, Division 2. This is a big matchup. We've got the Throckmorton Greyhounds, an all Greyhound matchup. Throckmorton Greyhounds against the Strawn Greyhounds, both of them 11-0. That is set for 6 p.m. Friday in Springtown.
Yeah, obviously a huge matchup when you've got two unbeaten teams and two teams with the type of tradition that both Throckmorton and Strawn have. That's going to be a huge game. And honestly, the other matchup in that region is also a big one. You've got Gordon and Goldberg, both at 9-2, facing off 7 p.m. Friday in Peaster. That's a really stacked region, and we kind of knew that going in, but those are going to be two fun games, I think.
Region 2, 1A, Division 2, the Jayton Jaybirds will be taking on Lorraine at 7 p.m. Friday at Gorilla Stadium in Trent. And this is a special opportunity for Jayton. If Jayton wins this ball game, for two reasons. If Jayton wins this ball game, it'll be Josh Stanlin's career win number 100 for Coach Stanlin if they manage to beat Lorraine. Secondly, if they win that ball game, in all likelihood, they will get a second opportunity to face top-ranked Motley County, which is their only loss on the year. They will get a second crack at Motley County. That's an awfully tough ball club to run into, but they want another opportunity. They have to beat Lorraine to get there, and Motley County will, of course, have to beat Balmaray to set up that scenario.
Yeah, and obviously you saw that Jayton team in action last week. They got that 52-41 win over Benjamin, and really kind of a high-profile area six-man game. So they've already got one really tough playoff win under their belt. So they kind of got their playoff run started right. If they can get through Lorraine this week, they got an opportunity to play that Motley County team again that they obviously share a district with. But a fun time for Jayton. It's going to be fun to see what they do this week.
Jayden plays old style football. That is a smash mouth football team. They line up and they like to run the ball. It's about as old style 11 manish as 6-man can get. They do not show a lot of spread formations. That's an old style smash mouth football team playing 6-man football. They play my style of football. It was
Yeah,
fun to
they get
watch them
those.
play. That was a great game last week, by the way, against Benjamin.
Yeah,
That was a
and I
fun
was
one up in Knox City.
and I was glad to see that it did kind of live up to the hype. Obviously, with the 45-point rule, sometimes these games, even the high profile ones, if there's just maybe a slight difference in speed or something like that, you can see it kind of get away from one of the team or the other. But it was fun to see the thriller in a game with that kind of hype going in.
All right, now we're going to jump up to Division One in Class 1A, 6-man, Region 4. We got the May Tigers will be facing Jonesboro. This is a battle of unbeaten. This is a big game right here for 6-man football. This is a very big game. May at 11-0 against Jonesboro at 10-0. That is 6:30 p.m. Thursday at Bob and Norma Cervetto Stadium in Dublin.
Yeah, like you said, another one of those, just a huge game with two teams that have yet to lose this year. May is one of those teams that really has a state championship on its mind, and this is the type of game it's going to have to win to get there.
All right, Region 2, 1A, Division 1. This is a big ball game also. This is an underrated Westbrook team that comes in at 7-4, facing Rankin at 10-1. That is set for 7 p.m. Friday against Garden City. But I'll tell you right now, Dan, the Westbrook Wildcats are a lot better than that 7-4 record. They played a hellacious schedule this year against some of the best teams in Texas. That's a dangerous 7-4, as Ira found out last week, losing 64-14 to them.
Yeah, I mean, you can throw that record completely out the window. Not only did they play some of the top teams in the state during their non-district portion of their schedule, they played really competitively with those teams. So a very, very good Westbrook team, and it's going to be fun to see what they can do against this Rankin squad.
All right, we're going to jump up now to Class 2A, Division 2, Region 2. We've got a big ball game that you are going to go to. This is a fun one. I'll tell you what, Thursday at Chesley Field in Cisco, 7 p.m. We've got the Roscoe Plowboys at 10-1 facing the Sandhill Wildcats at 10-1. That's an interesting matchup between two teams. And I've seen both of these ball clubs this year. These are teams that have some grit and some heart, and they do not quit. So you're going to see a battle all the way down to the finish over in Cisco.
Yeah, this one's going to be a lot of fun. Not only do you have two teams that come in playing really well, like you said, both teams at 10-1. You've got contrasting styles. You've got Santo with that flex bone option offense. You've got Roscoe, more of an up-tempo spread team, and it's two teams that have kind of different aims when they take the field, but both have had a lot of success doing what they've done. And both teams can run the ball. Both teams are physical. Both teams play great defense. This one's going to be fun. I'm really excited about this. These are two teams that I've been wanting to see all year, and it's going to be pretty cool to see them share the field on Thursday. And that's going to be a big game. This is one of those teams, one of those games where the winner of this game, I think, has an opportunity at that point to really kind of put together a special season. So we'll see how it goes.
Also surviving in this region, another one of our teams, Albany at 10-0, facing only at 6-5. That is set for 7 p.m. Thursday at Newton Field and Graham. I've got the Lions winning that one pretty easily, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one that that Albany is favored in pretty considerably, but we've seen upsets already, so they're going to have to come out ready to play. But if they do, I think I like their chances of getting through that one and making a deep playoff run, perhaps even to Arlington.
All right, let's jump up to Class 2A, Division 1. We're in Region 1 now. We've got a number of teams that are still alive in this region. We've got a lot of good football teams, really. This is one of our stronger regions that we cover as far as Big Country, the teams in the Big Country Preps coverage area. We'll go through these ball games. Let's start off with Holly at 11-0 facing Sundown at 8-3. That is 7 p.m. Friday at Memorial Stadium, Big Spring. And that's a rematch from a ball game that was played last year between the same two teams at the same venue, won by Holly. And that actually turned out to be a pretty tough ball game. We've also got Coleman facing Post, a rapidly improving Post team, 5-6. That's Friday at Wolf Stadium, 7 p.m. at Colorado City.
And rounding out that region, we've got Cisco at 9-2 playing Panhandle, 6-5, 7 p.m. Friday in Vernon. And then we've got Forsan at 10-1 taking on 10-1 New Deal, 7:30 p.m. Thursday in Colorado City.
All right, now I was there for Forsan's win over Goldthwaite. That was at at Gordon Wood Stadium in Brownwood, and that turned out to be really a great ball game. Goldthwaite led at the end of the second quarter and at the end of the third quarter, and Forsan just had to stick with it and finally outlast the Eagles, who, I mean, you want to talk about burning up some clock. Goldthwaite got that slot T offense going, and Forsan just could not get the football back. It was Goldthwaite had it all night long, and Forsan only had 3 possessions in the first half, 3. And their last possession started with about 20 seconds left in the half. Up until about 20 seconds left in the half, they only had the ball twice. When we talk about clock killing, Goldthwaite did it. That's what the slot T is designed to do, and they did exactly that. They only had 7 possessions on the night, did Forsan. But the last lead change belonged to the Buffaloes, and they came away with a 22-15 win. That was a great ball game. It really was.
And I'm excited to see this week's game with New Deal, just because I think we have a pretty good grip on what our teams in this region bring to the table. This will give us a pretty good comparison point with Forsan playing New Deal this week, given the fact that they played Hawley in their district finale and in a really competitive game. So this will give us an idea if Forsan can win this game or play competitively. This will kind of give us an idea what New Deal brings to the table. But you got to see Forsan last week. I got to see Coleman finally for the first time. I got my first look at that bunch, and they were as good as advertised in a 62-12 win over Anson. Really, once they got rolling, I mean, it was just a runaway train. And this team runs the ball very well, has a very balanced rushing attack where they've got 5 or 6 guys they can hand the ball to, all of which are good runners. And then defensively, that's about as physical a small school defense as I've seen all year. They really, really will hit you, make it very hard to run the football. So it's going to be fun to see what they can do this week and really this year. I think that's a team that will have a major say in what what happens with this region. Obviously, you're looking at potentially a 3rd round matchup between Coleman and Hawley, and that's going to be a slobber knocker if we get it.
All right, now let's jump up to Class 3A in Division 2, Region 2. We've got 2 ball clubs that are still alive, Dan. We've got the Eastland Mavericks, who will take on Bells at 7 p.m. Friday at Yellow Jacket Stadium in Boyd. And this Bells team is troublesome. This is another one of these slot T teams that executes the offense very well. Eastland's going to have to find a way to get the football away from them.
Yeah, I mean, Eastland's played really well offensively going into the playoffs, and then obviously put up 42 points on City View last week. But I agree. I think the key to that one could be on the defensive end. How are they able to slow down that Bells offense and to get the ball, get off the field on 3rd downs in particular, get the ball back to their offense? I think it's going to be important. If they're going to win that game, that will be a key. And then in the also in that region, we've got Dublin at 8-3 taking on Palmer at 8-1 at 7:30 p.m. Friday in Joshua. And Dublin, and we're about to talk to a lot about Dublin here when Coach Hardcastle comes on, but they're coming off a big 38-33 win over Callisburg, one that I think you and I would call an upset. That's a really big win for Dublin, and it'll be interesting to see if they can add another win to it.
I was upset when I saw that I missed that pick.
No,
I don't think anybody picked. Did anybody pick Dublin to win that game? I did not, and I blew it. I blew that pick.
Yeah, I was happy to see it though.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, to see that Dublin team, which has done some special things this year, particularly on the offensive side of the football, to see them, come away with that kind of win. And it was kind of that. I mean, they were in that game all night long, and you could tell early that Callisburg was in for a fight, and it was pretty cool to see Dublin pull that one out because. Like we've talked about, this is a program that hadn't had just a ton of playoff wins in its history. It's starting to build some tradition there, and this was a big win that kind of toward that.
I can almost hear Coach Cervetto out there last week telling his former player, "Yeah, Webb, he didn't pick us to win. Webb."
Whatever they did worked. They had that team ready to play, and I'm going to be interested to see if they can do it again this week. They're playing a good Palmer team, and if they can get through them. If this Dublin team's able to get to the 3rd round in that region, that'd be pretty cool.
Absolutely, and they're playing really well right now. And if you look at the scores, how close Dublin is to being, instead of 8-3. I mean, they could very easily be 10-1 right now. I mean, if you look at the scores, they're very close to being a 10-1 football team right now. That's a dangerous team, Dublin is.
And they're one of only 2 teams all year long that has taken Albany into the second half, within a couple of scores. I mean, they gave Albany a good first half and kind of Their offense even gave Albany a little bit of trouble. So this offense is really, really good. Obviously, with Chris Teaton at the quarterback position, and I think the thing that makes them so dangerous is just the depth they have at receiver. They've got 3 or 4 guys, all of which they spread the ball to, all of which are capable of big plays, and it really makes them a dangerous offense. And you've got a quarterback who's just a gunslinger, kind of getting the ball out to each of them. It's a really fun offense to watch.
All right, now we're gonna jump over to Region 1 in Class 3. We're gonna stay in Division 2, and again, we have in this region we have 2 ball clubs that are still alive, Dan. Beginning with the Ballinger Bearcats at 6-4, taking on a very tough foe, Abernathy at 10-1. That is slated for 7 p.m. Thursday at Andrews, and we're getting to that time now. And you get to this point, you start running into some very, very stiff opposition, and here we are with Ballinger. This is going to be a tough challenge.
Definitely. They're coming off a really exciting 35-34 win over Crane, though. And honestly, I think at this point, they've got nothing to lose. I think they've getting that through that first round, I think was a big deal for them. And now at this point, you're playing with house money. But yeah, that it will be a huge challenge. And then their district mate Brady will at 7-3 will take on Stanton 5-6 at 7 p.m. Friday at Wall. Stanton, with one of the state's biggest upsets of the year, took down Childress last week, and Brady will take on Stanton now with an opportunity to make it to the 3rd round. So I think if I had told you before the bi-district round was played that all 4 of our 3A Division II teams would win their bi-district matchups, I'm not sure you or either one of us would have predicted that.
If you had told me that Stanton was going to beat Childress, I would have asked you, "What are you drinking?"
Yeah, no one would have.
What did you put in your Wheaties this morning? I would have asked you. But you know what? We were talking before the taping tonight, and I thought you made an interesting point about the fact that Stanton could really be severely underrated because of the top-heavy nature of that district that they're in, with the likes of Abernathy and Idalou and Lubbock Roosevelt, which are 3 monsters, just absolute monsters that have a tendency of making everybody else look bad. But Stanton is probably, as a result, a little underrated on our part. So at least they were, by me, failing to recognize that it might be a little better than we thought, just because the rest of that league at the top level has a tendency to make people look terrible.
Yeah. And I think the interesting thing, one other thing that I kind of mentioned to you when we were talking about that was, I think one thing that district probably played to their advantage against Childress. I mean, as good as Childress is, and they were ranked number 3 in the state at that classification, I mean, in that game, Stanton wasn't going to see anything from Childress they hadn't already seen in terms of talent from Roosevelt, from Idalou, from Abernathy. So they right. While they weren't necessarily competitive in those games during district, they at least saw that level of competition. And then, you get into a game, and if you're still in the 4th quarter, you've got a chance to win it. And that's exactly what happened with Stanton. So I'm excited to see what Brady can do coming off a 57-14 win over Anthony. Obviously, I think if you're given a choice, you'd probably rather play Stanton than Childress in the 2nd round. But like we said, this Stanton team is obviously dangerous. They proved that last week. But if Brady can get through them, they'll be playing in the 3rd round, which is another thing I'm not sure most people would have predicted when the playoffs started.
All right, let's jump up to Division 1, Region 1, Class 3A. We're in the area around, and if you had told me that Brock was still going to be around, I would have believed you. If you had told me that Jim Ned was still going to be around, I would have believed you. If you told me that the early Longhorns, however, were still going to be around after starting off with Pilot Point in the bi-district round, I would have thought, you know what? I don't know about that one. And I did pick Pilot Point, and I blew it. I missed it. Early knocked them off last week in a great game, just dominated them 43-21.
Yeah, that's the thing, is not only did they beat them, they beat them soundly. They were up by 4 scores in the first half, and you're looking at that and saying, good gosh. I think the important thing to remember about this early team is that when you look at their record, they've got the loss to Breckenridge, but that was played without Jackson Price. They've got the loss to Jim Ned, and Price went down in that game. And obviously they went off to a great start, but they had to finish it without, Jackson Price, who's been just phenomenal at the quarterback position for them all year long. So they've got him back now. They played really well to finish district. They closed out district with a pair of wins, going to get into the playoffs with some momentum and to avoid having to play Brock in the first round, which was a big deal. And they came in confident and played a great first half against Pilot Point and really just finished that game off. So now they've got Shallow Water in a matchup of 9-2 teams, and I'm excited to see They proved last week. I mean, Pilot Point's a really talented football team, and they proved last week they can compete with that level of team. They're going to get another opportunity this week against a really good shallow water team.
I'm looking forward to that matchup. All right, let's take a quick look at the area around pairings involving teams of ours in Class 3A Division 1. This is all in Region 1. Brock at 11-0 facing Amarillo River Road, 6-4. That's 7 p.m. Thursday at the Mustang Bowl in Sweetwater. We also have earlier that we just mentioned 9-2 against Shallow Water, 9-2, 7 p.m. Friday, Bulldog Stadium at Clyde.
And finally, the defending state champion Jim Ned Indians 11-0 taking on 6-5 Muleshoe in an afternoon game, 3:30 Friday at Lubbock's Lowry Field. I think looking at these matchups, we've talked about it all year long. It looks to me like you've got Brock and Jim Ned on a collision course, and it's going to be a huge opportunity for both those teams in third round. And looking at these matchups, I think both will advance, and we're going to get that kind of dream matchup again this year.
All right, we're going to bounce up to Class 4A Division 2 now, Region 1, and in Class 4A, we still got two that are still alive. We got the Sweetwater Mustangs at 8-3 with a very tough matchup. Aubrey at 10-1, 7 p.m. Friday, Memorial Stadium in Stephenville. This is going to be a tough one to get through for Sweetwater.
Yeah, no question. This is going to be a very difficult game for Sweetwater, but the one thing kind of playing in their favor is that they're riding an 8-game win or a 7-game winning streak into this game. They've been playing really, really well, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. Had another 50-point game last week in a dominating effort against Borger. So they are riding a big wave of momentum into this game. And one thing to always remember is they are led by a coach in Russell Lucas, who has had a lot of playoff success over the years. So this has kind of been his time of year. It was for Hamlin. It's going to be exciting to see if they can kind of continue that same trend here at Sweetwater. They're off to a good start, but this is going to be a very tough matchup.
Well, to show you how much I know, I was a little concerned about Sweetwater and Coach Lucas when they got off to the slow start. I was like, are they going to adapt to his system and get everything rolling? I was a little worried for Russell, and guess what? Boom, they're rolling 8-3. He has shown us why he had so much success at Hamlin. He's a guy that the players respond to. He understands psychology. He understands how to build relationships and get people to play hard for him. That's what makes him an outstanding coach. And we're seeing it now at an even higher level.
Yeah, and honestly, I think there were two factors to that start. Obviously, first of all, and we learned this over the course of the schedule. I mean, we didn't know. We knew Stephenville was be good. We didn't know quite how good they were at that time. Now we've learned that they may be the best team in 4AD1. So you can throw, and then they played several games against really high caliber competition early in the season when they were kind of catching their footing. And then also they played some of those early games without receiver Harrison Foster, who is one of the most explosive receivers in the big country. So getting him back made a difference, and really their offense really took off right there at the end of non-district into district, and they're playing really well offensively. And I think one thing that's kind of been a catalyst to some of the success they've had lately as well is you've seen improvement on the defensive side. They've really played a very strong defensive game to end the regular season, to clinch the district championship, and then really shut down Borger last week as well. So they're playing better on the defensive side. They've been playing well offensively for a long time now. So we'll see. This Aubrey matchup is going to be a tough one. You're playing a 10-1 Aubrey team that is very, very good, but Sweetwater does come in there with some momentum.
On the other side of that regional bracket, we've got the Snyder Tigers facing Graham. Snyder at 8-3 against Graham, 7-3, 7 p.m. Thursday at Shotwell Stadium right here in Abilene. I think the door is open. I think there's an opportunity for the Tigers to get through the area around. This is a good Graham team, but it's not a great Graham team. We've seen teams from Graham in the past that we would have just gone ahead and penciled them in for the next round. This isn't a vintage Graham team, Dan. No. Snyder, if they play well, they got a shot here.
And honestly, I think this is a sneaky good Snyder team too. This is one that is not necessarily flashy, but you look at what they've done all year. It's been a really, really competitive football team all year long. They're starting to run the ball. They've run the ball well all year, but they're starting to find some new weapons in that running game, some really explosive weapons in the running game, playing great defense. And I mean, they come into this one at 8-3, have taken a really big step forward in Coach Westwood's third season against a Graham team that, like you said, is good, but not necessarily as good as some of the Graham teams we've seen in the past. So I'm excited to see if Snyder can get through this one. And if they can, a trip to the third round of the playoffs would be a really big deal in Snyder, which had a pretty good little drought there without a playoff win. I think their last one was about, I think, 2016. So they got that drought snapped last week with a 31-0 win over Seminole and a very impressive showing, and they've got an opportunity to compound that this week with a big game against Graham.
All right, now we're going to jump up to Division I in Class 4A, Region 2. Perhaps the team that has the best shot at making Arlington, at least it's arguably the team with the best chance. It's certainly, in my opinion, the best team the Big Country produced this year. The Stephenville Yellow Jackets, 11-0, will face Paris at 7-4. That's going to be 7:30 p.m. Friday at Collins Athletic Complex in Denton. Stephenville coming off a 49-21 win, a relatively easy win over Fort Worth Dunbar.
Yeah, and I don't think they're going to be, really tested this week either. I don't think Paris is a team that's going to be able to test them the way some of the other teams in this region might. If they win this one, they'll be playing the winner of Kennedale and Argyle in what will be a tough game. And then the other half of the bracket, you've got some biggies with Melissa and Midlothian Heritage playing, and then Kaufman and Waco La Vega playing. The one thing I agree with you, I think this Stephenville team is the best team the Big Country produced this year. When you look at just the total package, offense, defense, special teams, this team does not have many weaknesses. The only thing that worries me a little bit about this, about their opportunity or their chances of getting to Arlington, is the fact that they play in arguably, comparatively, when you look at relative strength, maybe the toughest region in the state. This region is just stacked when you look at it, when you've got Kennedale, Argyle, La Vega, Kaufman, Melissa, Heritage, and Stephenville in that mix as well. So
one slip up and it's over.
Exactly. But I do like this. The one thing I love about this Stephenville team, I've mentioned it several times over the weeks that we've been doing this, is they play defense, and defense travels. That you can count on really stout defense. They've been playing that this year, and if they can continue that trend and continue to be as explosive as they've been on offense, I think they've got a chance to continue this run quite a ways.
All right, now we're going to take a look at some results from last week. Some relatively surprising results, I would say. Big Spring, we had to say goodbye to them in Region 1, 4A D1, falling to El Paso Riverside 34-7. Cooper falling to Colleyville Heritage in the Class 5A Division 1 level 63-21. And then in 6A Division 2, El Paso Eastwood over Abilene High, eliminating Abilene High 31-27. Dan, the days of simply taking it for granted that you're going to win when you're facing an El Paso team in the early rounds are over.
Yeah, definitely. And we've talked about that too. We have seen the level of play in El Paso just improve dramatically over about the last 5 or 6, 5, maybe 8 years, but particularly the last 5. And Abilene saw that with El Paso Eastwood last year, where they had to hold off a big rally to win by 1 score in the bi-district round last year. And then this year they fall to them 31-27 in a game where Abilene High, I'm sure, does not feel like they played their best football game. They left a lot of points on the board. They got stuffed at the 1-yard line once. They had a couple of turnovers inside Eastwood territory. But I mean, Eastwood had a lot to do with that. They schemed them well. They were able to slow the run early in the game. And offensively, Eastwood's got some weapons. They've got some very good receivers, got a very scrappy quarterback. And they made plays. And at this time of year, that's what it's about. It's about making plays. It's about executing. And it's about limiting mistakes. And it's kind of like what you said with Stephenville, one slip up and your season can be over. And that was the case for Abilene High. And Coach Fullen out there took complete responsibility for it. He said, look, it's my job to have this team ready to play. And I didn't. He gave credit to Eastwood, which was deserving. Eastwood played a really good game, but I don't think Abilene High probably felt great about the way they finished the season. So, but that happens in the playoffs. I mean, you coach long enough, you're going to get upset in the playoffs one year or another. And unfortunately it was Abilene High's time last week.
All right. And with that, it's just about time to bring on Dublin head football coach Greg Hardcastle. But before we do that, we want to thank our sponsors. First and foremost, Capital Farm Credit, which brings you these Wednesday night podcasts throughout the school year. Also, for the love of the game broadcasting, and our old friend Terry Slavens, owner of KLAX 93.5 FM out of Breckenridge, 97.7 FM, KATX out of Eastland, Classic Country, 1330 AM out of Graham, 94.7 FM, KWKQ out of Graham, KROO 1430 AM out of Breck, and KWBY 98.5 FM out of Ranger. That is for the love of the game broadcasting. Also, Rob Durham, sales consultant at Bear Chevrolet Buick Cadillac up in Breckenridge. If you're in the market for a vehicle, new or used, give him a shout at 254-559-2266. That's Rob Durham, a Bear Chevrolet Buick Cadillac in Breckenridge. And finally, Phil Hill of the Abilene Realtors Group, big supporter of local athletics. If you're in the market, give him a shout at 325-669-5153 or go to his website at philhillproperties.com. And with that, Dan, we've got Greg Hardcastle, a head football coach of Dublin, as our guest tonight, replacing the retired Bob Cervetto. Those are some tough shoes to fill, but I'll tell you what, Greg has stepped into that role and kept things rolling. Dublin's been a lot of fun this year. They came off a big win last week against Callisburg. They've got Palmer this week. They're excited about football in Dublin. It's good to see.
Yeah, Coach Hardcastle's done a remarkable job with this group, and I'm excited to talk to him just about this first year. This was a team that was very young last year, took some lumps, and you've seen just tremendous growth last year to this year, where you've had kids that kind of were thrust into positions they may not quite have been ready for last year, really used that experience to their advantage, and now you're reaping the benefits. They're 8-3, coming off a huge win over Callisburg, and I'm excited to talk to Coach Hardcastle about that. This is obviously, I'm sure, been a fun experience for him, and I'm excited to get his take on that. And it looks like he's just about ready to join us. So let's go ahead and get him on.
And joining us now from Dublin, head football coach Greg Hardcastle. Coach, thank you so much for joining us.
You bet, Evan.
Coach, you're off to a successful start here. Can you tell us a little bit about your first year, and was this what you expected? Are you surprised?
Well, a little bit. After the season we had last year, we kind of struggled, but we did have a lot of these guys that are contributing this year were some guys that we didn't have last year, or we missed last year, that last half of the season, whether it's from injuries or they couldn't bounce back from COVID or different things like that. So, we went into the season a year ago projecting that we'd have 5 juniors starting on the offensive line, and I think only one of those finished the year, playing. So, again, because of injuries or whatever, all those guys were able to come back healthy this year, and they've been a big part of our success. We've got a large senior class, and they've done a great job leading the team, and we've just improved every week.
And Coach Eller coming off a big by-district win over Callisburg, 38-33, and a thrilling game. Just how exciting was that, and just what was the kind of the thoughts and kind of feelings of the team after coming up with that win?
Well, of course, obviously, the kids are excited, the community's excited, but we went in feeling like we had a shot to win that game, even though Callisburg was favored, we played well. We got some defensive stops when we needed to, and offensively we scored 7 out of 8 possessions. So that was big. We were, we've had our 4 receivers, have been a big key to our success this year. Chris getting them the ball and having 3 of those guys over, I think, 650 yards receiving. That's been a big part of our success. So, we were able to take advantage of that and played really well. We've really, I think, even though, the week before we lost a heartbreaker to Eastland, we played very well. And that's what I told the kids, I think, and the coaches, that this is about the hardest we've played back-to-back in games, since I've been here, I feel like.
All right, Coach, you hit a skid there where you lost a couple of ball games late, but you came back, you bounced back against that Callisburg team. Can you tell me? We've been talking about your district and the losses, wins or losses, no matter who played whoever, never surprised us. We've never seen a more competitive district, top to bottom, than the one you were in. In your experience, have you seen something like that?
No, I never have, and that's that's one of the things, some of the coaches in the district, we were talking, and it was mentioned, usually there's one team where you feel like, okay, maybe we got a little breather here this week. It wasn't like that. It was a battle every week, and of course, nobody went through undefeated and nobody went through winless, which is, not all of that typical, but very, very competitive district, and I think that paid off big dividends for us last week, because we've been involved in those close games, and even though we didn't win all those, we were in those battles, and even in both of those losses, we had a chance at the end. We gave ourselves a chance to win at the end. The game against Millsap, we're down 24 in the third quarter, and come back and make it a 3-point game, and still again get a possession where we got a chance to go down and score and win. It didn't work out that way, but the kids just keep battling, and they've been battle tested because of the district that we're in.
And Coach, just looking ahead now to the area around, what are your thoughts on this Palmer team, and what are maybe some keys to getting through that one with a victory?
Well, it's what we preach to the kids every week is they've got to do their job. Defensively, they've each position they have to do their job, and we've got to tackle. Get their wrap up, swarm to the ball. Offensively, we got to execute and do what we do. Palmer is a very well coached team. Coach Waddle has had some success over there. Since he's been at Palmer, and he's built that into a program that is in the playoffs year in and year out. They're going to be well coached, and they've got a couple of good players, good running backs that have a little bit of speed, and so we're going to have to contain those guys.
Coach, tell us about your skill personnel. You touched on that a little bit, but I've been very impressed with Chris Teton and his poise, but he's got a number of quality receivers to throw to. I do not recall a Dublin ball club with more overall depth in the skill positions than this one.
Right. We've had those years where we've had a receiver that was a 12 or 1,300 yard receiver. But even though we don't have that this year, we've got, like I said earlier, we got 3 that are over, I think, 650 yards in receptions, in receiving yardage and all. And they're all a threat to take it the distance any play. They've all made big plays at different points during the season, and it makes it hard just to key in on one guy.
Coach, tell us about Bob Cervetto. I know he's a good friend of yours. You guys go way back. Can you tell us about your relationship with Bob and his influence on you and your coaching?
Excuse me. Well, I actually did my student teaching for Bob back in 1990 at Stephenville Junior High, and had a great experience with that. And so, my first job, I went away for a couple of years, and he had a position that came open, was able to hire me back there, and had a great experience there in Stephenville. Very fortunate to get there at the time I did, and to be able to work under coaches like Art Browse, Mike Copeland, Chad Morris. That was a great experience. But with working with Bob so closely, it's always been about the kids, and doing what's right for the kids, and loving on those kids, and helping them to find their way. That's probably one of the biggest things is it's real easy to when a kid does something to just kind of push them off to the side, but it's a little harder to love on them until they do right. And that's one of the things that I've learned from him, through the years, and that's been a big influence on me, and trying to build those relationships with those kids, and just, helping them, find their way and become, good young men.
And Coach, did you feel any pressure, maybe following a guy who was maybe a mentor of yours and who is kind of an icon now in that Dublin community? Kind of what was that like? And I'm sure it helped to have been part of that program, but what was that process like following a guy like Coach Cervetto, who's such a unique individual?
Right. Well, he's so full of energy and a people person, so that that's one of the things that honestly I'm not. But I've had to learn a little bit more about, trying to be that way and being involved in the community and stuff from him. But you know, he's been great as far as he's been around some. He still comes around and he's still a sounding board if I need it, but it's never unsolicited. You know, so and so that's been great to have this year. But as far as pressure uh, of following him, that in some ways, yes. As far as holding up the standard of what he's built there, and not letting it not letting it go. Yeah, I would say that I put that pressure on myself. But again, he's been so supportive and everything through the year, and I really appreciate him and the opportunity he gave me at the time he came to Dublin.
One of the things that about Bob, now I've never met anybody who did not like Bob. Everybody likes Coach Cervetto, but one of the things that I thought that spoke, more highly of him than anything else was his willingness, because every team has its ebbs and flows. Every team has its ups and downs. Last year, Dublin was a young football team. They had graduated a lot of their talent, and they weren't going to have a banner year because you could just see it coming because of the talent and the youth. Coach Cervetto could have very easily retired following the 19 season, but he wanted you to get off to a good start and not to have all that pressure on you with that young team. And Bob Cervetto was willing to basically fall on his sword, instead of going out on a high note to get you off on the right foot. And he put everybody else in front of himself by doing that. And not a lot of guys are willing to do that. I thought that spoke very highly of him.
Yes, and like I say, I love Bob like a brother. I think I told you last year when he announced that he's kind of like the older brother that I never had. I was the oldest brother, growing up, and but he, everything through the years, the stuff he has done or will do, it was about the program and building the program. It wasn't about him; it was about the program, and so I think that's where that comes from.
Okay. And you mentioned the program that Coach Cervetto built, but you've been a part of that as well. You've gotten to see that entire process where you've seen really a culture change throughout that athletic program. And you've seen success both on the field, in the classroom, all sorts of things where you've just seen, just like you said, a standard raised. How much pride do you feel just in your role and kind of in being part of that? And just how much fun has it been to be a part of that, where you are taking over a program that's been a little bit down and you took it over, and now to see where it is?
Yes, amazing transformation in 11 years. Again, and as you mentioned, not just on the athletic side, on the academic side. The standards that have been raised throughout our school system. Whether it's in the classroom or in our athletic program. Trying to build that level of excellence, and we've gone from, as far as our academic side, we've gone from being a school that was very low performing and had some issues to where, we're one of the highest rated schools in our area and in the state, as far as, when you look at the type of kids that we have in our school district, and that a lot of that goes hand in hand with that athletics. You hold those kids to a high standard in the athletics or extracurricular realm. Well, that's going to carry over into the classroom. And so that's one of the things that Coach Cervetto was always really proud of, and and really tried to emphasize, and I feel very fortunate to have been part of that process.
Coach, how much did that extend into the community? I mean, the culture changed obviously on campus and in the program itself. I would say throughout all the programs, it changed. How much did you see in the community as far as enthusiasm and people wanting to get involved?
Oh yeah, there's people want to get involved and be a part, and when we first got there, that was kind of a struggle. But there was those, there was a few people that were, hey, we want to see this changed, at that time. But there's so many more people involved, and there's an excitement in the community about what's going on.
And just kind of along with that, we've also seen a pretty significant transformation in y'all's facilities. Y'all kind of had a facility overhaul out there where y'all got some really, really nice, fields and stadiums for these kids to play on. Just how much has that kind of increased the enthusiasm just among the kids? I know those kinds of things are fun when you do see that program building. That's kind of a part of that.
Right. And that, that's one of the things, and that goes back to our superintendent, Dr. Schneider and Bob, and they both had a vision that, uh, we want the kids to understand that, hey, they deserve this. They've earned it through their hard work and stuff, and so they take pride in what we've got, and in those facilities, and it's nice that now people want to come to Dublin, to compete, and they want to come to our facilities. It hasn't always been like that, and but so it is a point of pride for not only for our students, but for our community as a whole. Trying to get people into the community, and that helps our businesses and all that stuff as well.
Coach, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time, and best of luck against Palmer. We'll be keeping an eye on you.
Okay, thank you, Evan.
And that was Dublin head football coach Greg Hardcastle. The Lions will be meeting Palmer in the area round this week. And, if you look at Dublin's history, Dan, anytime they advance just to the area round, that's a great season. It really is. They won. I mean, they went from about 1964 into well beyond 2010 without even winning a playoff game. So nowadays it's common for them to win a game or two, and it's so good to see. The turnaround is off the chart for what we're seeing up there.
Yeah, and I think the neat part about where they're at right now is that they've got a lot of players on this year's team that are juniors, kids that are going to be back next year that are going to kind of help continue kind of set the standard for that program and build a tradition. Because I don't know if they know that right now, if they've kind of realized it at the moment, but that's exactly what they're doing. They are building a tradition.
Yes.
When you talk about guys like Kai Wing, where he was kind of a pioneer in some of that stuff, and even some of the guys before that, obviously they are building a program tradition at a program that really didn't have much before. So it's neat to see what they're doing now. Really is setting the expectations for future classes and for future really generations possibly. So very cool, and it's been a lot of fun to watch this team just continue to fight through. They've gotten some really nice wins, had some really competitive showings even in the losses. So I've enjoyed watching this team. It's obviously a very high flying, fun offense to watch, and I'm excited to see what they do against Palmer.
They're going to score some serious points next year.
Yes,
Chris Heaton back and those skill people back. They're going to score some serious points next year. This is going to be a team to watch. It really is.
Yeah, definitely. And that's cool. I think that's always fun when you get a program like that is kind of one of those upstart programs and kind of get to watch it from the beginning stages. Because I think that this program still has blue sky ahead of it, which is really kind of fun to think about. That what they're doing now isn't necessarily the ceiling of what that program can be.
And with that, it's just about time to wrap up this week's edition of the Capital Farm Credit Wednesday night podcast. But before we do that, we want to remind you that we have 3 separate subscription packages here at Big Country Preps. We've got a $5 a month subscription. We've got a semi-annual subscription, 6 months, where we knock that price down to $4 a month. And then we've got an annual subscription where we knock the price down to $3 a month, $36 for a full year of Big Country High School athletic coverage.
We'd also like to remind you that if you see a photo you like in any one of our galleries, you can purchase those. We have digital downloads available for just $7, and we also have some prints and keepsakes available for purchase. So make sure you check that out. As you're scrolling through the site, you'll notice we take a lot of photos from these games we're at. It's something we enjoy doing, and it's something we are very proud of here at bigcountrypreps.com.
all big country, all high school, all the time. Welcome home.